Hi community of awesome, I'm Ava J and this is Bookish Pixie. So someone recently asked me if I could do a vlog on my writing habits when I'm drafting, and that sounded really fun, so here we go. First question, how long do you write in one sitting? So this can vary depending on the situation, but if I'm using a word sprint program, which is what I do most of the time when I'm first drafting, like my Write Club's word sprints, then I usually write for 25 to 35 minutes at a time, depending on whether or not I go over the timer. With my Write Club's word sprints, the timer goes for 25 minutes and then there's a 5-minute break, and during the 25 minutes you write. I usually will follow that timer, but sometimes I'll go over if I just want to finish or I'm on a roll or whatever. Second question, how many words do you usually write before you take a break, and how long does that take? As I said in the first part, I kind of dictate it by time, not so much by how many words I've written, so it's always 25 to 35 minutes, and on a good day, if I'm writing really well and I'm on a roll, I can get roughly 700 to 1,000 words in that 25 minutes. But if I'm not having a good day, then it's more like a couple hundred, maybe 500 on average, maybe less if I'm having a really bad day. I want to say though, largely the reason I managed to consistently get in the higher hundreds range for 25 minutes is because I've been writing in these sprints for years and I know that it works well for me. Somebody who isn't as predisposed to fast drafting may not be able to work that way, and that's okay. But yeah, usually I'll do those word sprints back to back with 5-minute breaks in between until I've hit my daily word count goal, which is usually about 2,000 words a day. Third question, what kind of music do you listen to, if at all? When I'm first drafting, I do usually listen to music. I'll put on my noise canceling headphones and it'll help me get in the zone. And yeah, for first drafting at least, I'm definitely a music person. What I listen to depends manuscript to manuscript. I'll usually listen to either one band or one album, with a couple exceptions, because that way I associate that band or album with the manuscript and it helps me get in the zone that much quicker. With the Beyond the Red trilogy, I primarily listened to Imagine Dragons. So with the first book, Beyond the Red, I listened to the album that was out at the time, Night Visions, on repeat, with a couple songs of 30 Seconds to Mars thrown in there for more intense scenes, but I ended up focusing mostly on Imagine Dragons. And then with Into the Black, which is a second book and I just drafted over the summer, I listened exclusively to Imagine Dragons' newer album, Smoke and Mirrors. With other manuscripts, I've listened to Fall Out Boy, Muse, Maroon 5, and 30 Seconds to Mars, which I mentioned before. Fourth question, what do you eat or drink while writing? I usually keep water by my computer when I'm first drafting, which is really boring, but I also drink a lot of tea, so it's nice to have tea next to me while I'm writing. The only problem with hot drinks like tea is I will often forget that it's there while I'm writing because I'll be so into what I'm writing and like super focused, and then my tea gets cold, which is really sad, and also why water is safer in that sense. But it is nice to have while I'm writing. And as for snacks, I'll sometimes have like grapes or something small like that, but I don't often eat while I'm writing. In fact, I'll sometimes have the opposite problem where I'll write and write and write and then kind of forget about breakfast or lunch, and that's not good. Fifth question, do you multitask while writing? I try not to because it's super distracting, and I find that I work a lot better when I just hyper focus on what I'm doing. So I'll shut out all other distractions while a timer is going. But occasionally, if I'm chatting to a friend, I'll just keep the chat box open next to my writing. Last thing I want to say is this is just what works for me and not necessarily what would work for you, because everyone works differently and that's fine. So ultimately, what's important is to try different methods and strategies and see what works best for you and then stick with it. So that's what I got for today. If you liked what you saw, don't forget to subscribe and comment, and I'll see you guys next week.